So now that we got a little bit of the perspective of students who have attended UVA and are in the process of attending UVA, plus the perspective of a woman who was born and raised in Vinegar Hill, we want to talk about the future of housing in Charlottesville and the plans that are in place now to change the current state of disparity between the residents of Charlottesville and the residents of the community of UVA within Charlottesville.
My name is Michael Payne. I'm an organizer with the Charlottesville Low Income Housing Coalition and I'm a candidate for Charlottesville City Council. A lot of it has to do with exploring our zoning, which hasn't been significantly updated since 2003, and obviously quite a lot has changed since 2003 in Charlottesville. So we have a lot of problems in terms of over half the city is zoned R1 for single family homes only, whereas our biggest need is for one bedroom and efficiency rentals, and over 60% of the city are rentals, and yet people aren't able to build duplexes or smaller apartments. And the other piece of it is that we have to get our infrastructure ready for greater density in terms of investing in our public transit system, investing in the capacity of local schools, investing in our roads and bridges, because we haven't made that investment and we haven't started to think long term about if we're increasing density. We also need to strengthen our public transit system so we have stops every 20 minutes so it's easier for people to actually not use cars. So it's a lot that we haven't planned for as a city.
How can the university be an ally for public or affordable housing initiatives in Charlottesville rather than an adversary?
Well, one thing is, trying to build more on-campus student housing so students aren't being pushed out into surrounding neighborhoods. I think particularly there's a lot of pressure from the university on 10th and Page and Fifeville, which are historic black neighborhoods in Charlottesville that are near West Main Street. There's a lot of development pressure coming into those neighborhoods. And so again, building on-campus housing can help, but that itself is not a total solution. I think a major thing is that if you look at the property tax that UVA would pay Charlottesville on just the properties it owns in Charlottesville, not Albemarle, just Charlottesville, it would pay the city over $10 million a year if it paid property taxes. Currently it pays none. And instead of property taxes, they pay about $40,000 a year as a payment in lieu of taxes. So there's I think a major obligation in terms of investment from the university into the local community in terms of, like Duke has done in Durham, investing in a local community land trust to provide workforce housing for workers at UVA, to continue to pay all its workers, including contract workers, a living wage, which according to the Orange Dot report, for a family in Charlottesville is over $20 an hour. And to partner with the community closely, again, in terms of investment and planning on housing, public transit, and a bunch of other issues.
UVA casts a long shadow over Charlottesville. It's not all bad, it's not all good. I'm very free with my criticism to UVA, but I hope it's constructive. I hope it's well taken. The housing story is difficult, and it's not just UVA's fault. We sort of had a three-way game of chicken between the city, the county, and the university, starting in, I think, the early 90s, with each one saying, I'm not taking care of student housing, you guys do it, and no one did. And housing got very, very expensive. We are all changing, I think, now, a little bit late. UVA is starting to build housing again. Charlottesville has built some housing. Albemarle is building some housing. It's not enough. We have serious regional problems that we created, but at least people are at the table and are starting to work on it. Yes, we're starting. We are starting to. We have actual regional coordinating bodies to do that work now. That's all new within the last year or so. But Galvin put this really well at a recent meeting in, I think, January. Zoning can either be sort of suburban or urban in character. Urban is more about making places that really you want to walk around, you want to take a bicycle, hop on a bus. Suburban is really about cars. It is car first, get in your car, drive to somewhere, park. Our zoning is suburban. It was updated in 1956, and it's very much there in its head. It is about the car. So the history of the last 100 years of urban planning is very much about race and exclusion. We're talking about Jim Crow. The policymakers were very clear about their preferences and desires as far as race. They were ardent segregationists. They wanted separate cities, separate schools, separate restaurants, separate everything. And they achieved that. They won for a very long time. They lost piece by piece. They never lost housing. Housing is still segregated in Charlottesville and across the country.
What is the best thing that the city could do right now in terms of housing policy?
I've been thinking about that. We are planning to do a rezoning next year to start to allow some housing. Depending on how far we go and how much we allow, will indicate how important that is. I think we need to go pretty far because we've gone way out on the deep end on one way. I think we need to correct that. If we do that, that will be huge. If we don't do that, we will have to spend through the nose to make up for it. We're talking millions and millions and millions. And we don't have the money, we don't have the taxable authority. I don't know how we do that.
So I guess going off of that, how can UVA students be an ally for public housing and affordable housing initiatives instead of an adversary?
I think when it comes to the university's role in housing, what we need is we need to have students in the community together making demands, because I think typically what the university administration has done is to wait out students until graduation or the summer. Leadership that had built up pressure on living wage or housing issues graduates, and then they start over and they do the same process of starting a new commission or a new working group. But if students, who I think have the leverage over the university administration and the Board of Visitors, can unify with the community, which has leverage over city council, and together, I think we can put a lot of pressure on the university to make changes. And I think our biggest leverage point is really that making the university fear bad publicity for some of the decisions it's making. We don't have in the community. We don't have a lot of leverage otherwise. I mean, most of the university's property is technically in Albemarle County. We don't have any leverage over the Board of Visitors, which is appointed by the governor, who will ultimately make all the decisions. So we need to rely a lot on students.
Out here is high. To live somewhere decent, unfortunately, is so high. So we were like, we need to take in the cost of living, where we're going to be at, and just like sustaining the lifestyle we had back home,
Because it's just too much.
Yeah.
And everywhere you see is building hotels. I wish I had that money.
Right.
I wish I had the money that they're spending.
Yeah, and because they're spending so much, the price of living is
It's high.
going up.
But I thank God for the West Haven that we live in, because they only judge you by your check.
One thing that I think the city could do is simply just listen and actually care. Because these people are telling you what's wrong. These people are going to the meetings. They're showing up. You just simply don't care enough. Because when you look at the statistics of it, Charlottesville is one of the most expensive places to live in America.
We couldn't live nowhere else for what we paying in. And that's why everybody ought to thank God. If God made a way for us, and still making a way.